All right, so we're going to talk about this brand new topic. I have done versions of this in the past, but we scrapped the whole thing down and completely rebuilt it from the ground up. So it's great information. You're not going to hear this information anywhere else. I didn't download this from somewhere or hear it on a podcast. This is all completely fresh information that we've developed ourselves after being in the business over 10 years and selling nearly 1,000 houses to real estate investors just like yourself. I always like to do this first of all too. By show of hands, who has never been to a build workshop before? This is your first workshop ever? Cool. All right. It's always about half. That's really good to see. The one thing that I really want to make sure that I point out is there's all kinds of people running around selling real estate stuff and books and coaching and tapes and all that stuff. I can just breathe easy. There's no sales pitch at the end. There's nothing to join. I don't have a DVD set or anything like that at all, okay? So in fact, we want you to join us at Mio's afterwards where we'll pick up the tab. So the only thing that we sell are our houses, and if you need financing, we have financing available as well. And we provide you with all the other resources that you need to be successful completely for free. Well, cleverly embedded into the price of the house is how I like to think of it. So we appreciate you guys coming here. We do these workshops every single month on the second Thursday of every month, and they're completely free and open to the public. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Gary Bailey. I founded Build in 2008. I am a former junior high band director, turned real estate investor, turned real estate agent, turned business owner. So I've personally done over 50 rehabs myself. So I've been there, I've made money, I've lost money, just all the above. So I understand if you're trying to get in this business and you're having trouble doing it, or maybe you've been doing it for a while and you're just not where you want to be and you're kind of trying to figure out why does my bank account have the same amount of money in it or less than it did 10 years ago when I started investing in real estate. I thought I was going to get rich quick, right? That's what it's all about. So I'm here to give you some practical advice, some good information here that you can apply to your real estate investing business. Or if you're just thinking about getting started, hopefully this will give you enough information to say, hey, you know what? This is something I can definitely do. And there are a lot of tools out there that are available if you buy your properties from Build. So let's get started. So the topic this month is 4 budgets for rehabbers. So rehabbing a house is a battle, right? It's just like a war, right? So in a war or any type of battle you go into, you need resources. So you got to have a plan, right? You got to have a strategy. So when it comes to rehabbing, your strategy you got to have for the house is what work needs to be done. So we call that a scope of work. The second thing that you got to have troops, right? And I tried to pick a gender neutral icon, right? Just to be... So you need to have troops. So you got to have people that are going to do the work. Now hopefully, no one's sitting there thinking, man, I'm going to save a bunch of money by doing the whole rehab myself, because you're going to want to hire contractors to do the work. So these are people that do this every single day, day in and day out. They can do it better than you. They can do it faster than you. And then if you try to do it yourself and you mess it up, you're going to have to hire one of them anyway. So like they always say, you can pay me now or you can pay me later, come back and fix it, right? So that's the second thing that you have to have. And that's a battle, right? Finding it, because you're automatically conflicted. They want to make as much money as they can doing the work, right? And you want to pay them as least amount of money as possible, but you still want them to do a good job. So you've got to find that balance. And the third thing you need is ammunition. So in real estate, what's your ammunition? Money, right? Capital. So how are you going to pay for everything? Either you're going to get financing to buy the house and to fix it up, or maybe you're going to pay for cash, but you need to know how much money you're going to spend on the project, and you need to understand exactly when you're going to need that money. So a lot of real estate investors just kind of go into it and they kind of wing it, and they see how things will go. For those of you who have been investing in real estate for a while, where do things tend to go? Does it if you just sit back a little bit and you mess up, do you accidentally come in under budget? No. What ends up happening? You come in over budget. It takes longer, right? The contractors charge you more money. They run into all kinds of weird things, right? So again, you have to have a plan. If you have a plan that everybody's on board with between the contractors and you and your bank or whoever you're financing it, then it makes everything a lot easier because you're all kind of singing from the same hymnal, okay? So I'm not going to get into scoping too much tonight. So there's 2 other big topics that I'll cover next month and the month after that. so that I'll allude to here. So my goal tonight is really to specifically talk about how you're going to budget your project and then how you're going to apply that budget throughout the entire process. All right, so rehabbing a house without any type of a budget is literally like going into a battle and not knowing how many bullets you're going to need, right? You would never do that. Not that any of us are going into battles anytime soon, but you need to know that. But just use that as an example. I'm going to play out this army analogy all day today. I don't know why I picked that, but I'll kill an analogy. I will. What's that? There we go. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for your service, sir. So you have to understand how much ammunition you need. You have to understand how to deploy your capital because you will run out of it at the end. If you don't tell your money where to go, it will leave you. So there's two characteristics of an effective budget. Number one, it's got to be written down. And this is common sense. If you've been coming to these workshops for the last 8 years, you've probably heard me say this a few hundred times. It absolutely has to be written down. You can't wing it, even if you've been doing it for a while. It's tough. You'll still make mistakes. So that's number one. That's 101. But here's the second thing your budget should do. So it should also help guide the entire project. So otherwise, if you just have the budget and you just tack it up on the wall, I'm like, nope, there it is. All it's doing to serve is just serving oh, now I know how much I went over, how much money I'm going to lose, right? So a lot of times people treat the budget like those triangular road signs at curves. They're like, oh, the recommended speed on this curve is 35 miles an hour, right? But you're just like, oh, well, the budget's just recommended. Well, I grew up in the country, though, so whenever we saw those signs, we thought, as a 16-year-old, if we could double the speed on that sign while going around the curve, then we win, right? So, but your budget should be something that not just sits on the wall and says, hey, this is what you should be doing. It should guide you throughout the entire process. But unfortunately, what most people understand about budgeting, they say, okay, well, this is what the budget is per category, and the only way I know how to use this is to go back at the end and see how much I was over or under in each of the categories. But it's not really dynamic. It doesn't really help. Because the problem is there's no one budget that will help you do that. In fact, I think you're probably going to need 4, which is the name of tonight's topic. So fortunately, you guys are in the right place. Okay, so these are the 4 budgets that you're going to need. I'm going to hit each one of them real quick, and then I'm going to do a deeper dive. I also have handouts too, so be excited. All right, so the first budget is the master budget. That's what most people have. That's the basic, all right? It's the overall budget. The second one is the LMI budget, which I'll tell you what that means when I get to that section. The third one is the bidding budget, which is the budget that you use when you're getting bids from your contractors. And then the fourth budget, which is a chronological budget, which is the most complex, but it's what will allow you to get through the whole rehab and make adjustments along the way so that you don't just have to go back and look at the end and see how you did. Because I promise you're going to be over if you do that. All right, so like any good analogy, I'm going to continue to run this one into the ground. So you have to do reconnaissance before you start the rehab. So there's a couple ground rules that I want to make sure that we're all on the same page about. Because you can't just get the house, you buy the house, you get the packet from Build, the second page has the budget on it, you're like, oh yeah, this is the budget, this is fantastic. How do you actually apply that? How do you apply that to your job? And how can you work it in a way so that it will help you along the way, and it's not just sitting there? So these are the 2 things you have to do for reconnaissance. First thing you've got to do is that you absolutely have to go out and determine the scope of work that needs to be done. So you have to figure out what needs to be done to the property. And the second thing you have to do is determine the costs. You're saying, well, Gary, the cost is right there. It's right there on the budget. Well, yeah, it says kitchen, $4,000. If I lined up 4 investors right here and said, hey, Milt and Dan, you guys have been investing about the same amount of time. You guys have both done over 100 houses. I bet if I said spend $4,000 on a kitchen, not counting the appliances, you'd have 2 completely different budgets, right? So there's so many variations on budgets. When you see a budget, you see a budget from us or the estimated rehab costs. If you look at each individual item and you consider this, there's like a standard price for everything, there's a high price, and there's a premium. So there's 3 different options for every single piece of the job. So there's literally thousands and thousands of combinations that you could plug in to figure out the pricing. So you can't say, oh, well, they're saying it needs $35,000, they're crazy. Well, there's a lot of different ways that you can arrive at that number, and you have to craft the budget according to what you're going to do to the property and according to what your capabilities are. You might have a roofer who's really good and not that expensive, or you might not have a roofer, or you might be an electrician yourself. You see all the different factors? All right. But if you just have your master budget, it's not going to get it done. All right, what we're going to use tonight as an example, because I could run through a whole house rehab from start to finish. But as most of you, if you give any thought to this, a kitchen has pretty much all the aspects of a full-blown rehab. But I can use it, I'm going to use a kitchen as an illustration tonight for a whole rehab. Because the kitchen has all the different phases and has all the stages and has all the different, a lot of the scopes that a whole house would have. Make sense? You guys want to go with me on this little journey and we'll walk through this kitchen? Okay, cool, good. So I'm going to walk through this kitchen as I would with a real estate investor that I'm working with. So if I was going to do this myself, this is how I would map everything out. And I'm not going to go, okay, pick out the tile and do this. That's not what I'm going to do. We're going to talk about some higher level stuff. Because what I want to do is give you enough information tonight so you can take this and you can apply it to your business. You can apply it to your job. And you know, the whole teach a man to fish thing, it's the same thing, right? Okay. How do you scope out the job? Well, step 1, go out and you get yourself a real high-piece technology, call it a notebook. There's all kinds of tools and stuff, but I tend to find that pen and paper or pencil and paper work best. I like these moleskin ones. They're nice and big. The grid is better because you can do like a foot per grid. It's perfect. Ideally, you want to map out the entire house, room by room, and write down, take the measurements of every room and write down every single thing that it needs. And every time I talk about this stuff and I talk about scoping out a job, people are like, oh, it's going to take me a couple hours to do that. It's going to take me a long time. It is. And it's worth it because on average, real estate investors go over $10,000 on their budget. So if I told you, I will pay you $10,000 to go out and do this, and it will take you a couple hours, how many people would do that? Yeah. Tell you what, I'll split it with you, right? I'll do it for 5, okay? But I'm telling you, and again, this is really, really important. So we're going to use tonight, we're using an example of a kitchen. So you'll take this, and then you have this other fancy dandy thing called a tape measure. So you want to measure stuff out. So for our purposes tonight for the kitchen, you would simply go in there and you would measure the kitchen. Get the dimensions of the kitchen, figure out where the window is, how high it is off the ground, where the doors are, and you write all that down. The reason why is you need to know these dimensions, you need to know these numbers, because when your tile person calls you, when you're at work and you come out of an important meeting and they're asking you some question about the house, you have to have familiarity with the house. You have to know. Like you don't have to specifically know how to put down tile, but you need to know how many square foot is that kitchen? About how big is that? How big is that bathroom? What about that landing at the top of the stairs? Is the tile continuing from the kitchen onto the top of the stairs, or are you stopping it? If you are, what kind of transition strip are you using? See, right? These are the questions that they will ask you when you're in the middle of your yearly review at your day job and they're blowing your phone up. And no matter what, if you miss that call, I promise you, they're going to pick the answer that's different from what you would have told them to do, no matter what. It's going to be different, right? It's not necessarily going to be wrong, but it's not going to be what you want. And multiply that times every single piece of the rehab. But if it's all written down, you're better. Okay. Are we clear on this? Super high tech, right? Tape measure, this, okay. The most expensive part of going out and scoping the job is probably your car that you bought that you're going to drive out to the house. Okay, so you're going to walk to the job site. You're going to walk through it. So in this case, a kitchen, you're going to walk through this kitchen. And you're going to write down everything that needs to be done in the kitchen. Can I have my sales associates come up here, please? And I need your help. Sure. We have a handout. How many of you guys have been to the workshop that's the anatomy of a rehab or 8 stages of the rehab, or watched that video? Good. Huh. On the front page of buildrealty.net, there's a video that is a must watch. It's must watch. It's completely free. It's about 45 minutes long, but it's broken up into 3 sections. It's called the 8 stages of the rehab. If you don't understand these 8 stages, or you've not been to one of these workshops, then you're going to be confused. So we have a handout to tell you what they are. All right, you guys got them? Okay, hold them up so I can see you have them. Awesome. This is something that we've developed over the years. 8 stages of the rehab. So as you're going through, let's just use the kitchen in this case. Let's use this kitchen. You're walking through the kitchen and you're looking at the different steps. You're seeing, okay, for the demo, what do I need to do? For the rough-in, what do I need to do? And you're just going to go and you're going to write these things down. And then you're also going to take measurements. So here are the 8 stages. I'm not going to go into them. If you want to learn more about these, go to buildrealty.net. There's a video right there on the front page that has all the different stages. So you've got planning, demo, and exterior. So that's the first phase. The phases serve as gates to say, hey, I'm not going on, I'm not doing anything else until this is done. So I'm not hanging drywall until all the plumbing is roughed in. Does that make sense? You laugh, but then drywall, tile, and painting. That all happens. And then the cabinets. Drywall, then the cabinets. I got real excited on my very first rehab when the cabinets were delivered. I was like, I'll put that drywall up later. I can fit it around the cabinets. True story. That worked out really well. Okay, then fixtures, final electric, plumbing, final paint. That's your next stage. So, or sorry, your next phase. So you don't do anything else until you finish all that. And then you do the carpet and the doors, and you do your last 10%, you're cleaning your staging. Now, is this the perfect right way? No. There's other ways, there's a million different ways to skin a cat, right? But you need to have some type of a process and some type of a critical path that's going to get you from the beginning of the rehab to the end of the rehab. Because otherwise you're going to end up just going in there, just doing whatever's funnest, whatever's easy. You'll put off all the hard stuff till the end. You'll drywall before you do the plumbing. Okay. So it'll look like this. This is your notebooks. You've gone out there, you bought the notebook, or you just took a piece of note paper, whatever. Here's a piece of paper. This is your drawing of the kitchen. So you can fill it in with like measurements, and each one of these grids is like, can be like a foot or 2 feet, however you want to do it, doesn't matter. So you write, how big is it? Any door openings, windows, anything like that. On this particular kitchen, what we're going to do is, it's a nicer area, so we're going to do granite. And this wall right here needs to come down because we want to do an open floor plan. So we're going to open up the wall between the dining room and the kitchen. So that needs to be included in the scope. We're going to do decent cabinets, but we're going to do nice countertops because we're going to spend a lot of money taking this wall out and doing some other things. Now, you would draw out essentially what the room would look like, and you kind of use this to map out about what your kitchen's going to look like. So kind of the layout. Doesn't have to be set in stone. I would recommend using a pencil. Now, fortunately, I already walked through this kitchen in my mind today, so I wrote everything down as I went. And there, would you know it, 26 different steps to rehabbing this kitchen from start to finish. And I have them right here. So, sales associates, once again, if you could hand these out, I'd really appreciate it. I was like, I really want you guys to be in this workshop tonight, not only because you'll get a lot out of it, but I needed some help. So, there are 26 steps to rehabbing this kitchen. So if you look at the phases that you have, the 8 stages of the rehab, you'll see these are all in order. So I walked through and I thought, okay, for demo, what's the first thing that I need to do? I got to order the dumpster. What's the next thing I'm going to do? Look, you don't have to be a trained contractor or an expert at anything. If you have an interest in real estate, you're probably excited about this. You probably thought about all these things anyway. So you're just walking through, what are all the things I need to do? If you don't know how to do this or you're scared to try to do it on your own, ask one of our associates to go with you or ask your contractor to come with you. And you're literally just going to write every single thing down. So remove all the light fixtures, demo and flatten the cabinets. That means break them down before they put them in the dumpster. remove all the wall tile, remove the floor tile, dispose of appliances. It's a step-by-step process for how you're going to rehab this kitchen. See why I use kitchens? Because it's got a lot in it. This is start to finish every single thing you need to do to rehab this kitchen. Look, it doesn't, this right here, that list applies to about 90% of all kitchens out there, right? The only variations are your costs. So you guys all have that list, right? We're going to use that tonight. We're going to use that list. Okay, so determine the scope. Boom, done. We've done that. That's it. That's how you determine the scope. What are we going to do? We're taking the wall out. We're changing out, we're updating the electric. We're putting in new lighting, putting in new cabinets, we're putting in new It's simple, and what happens, people think in their head, well, yeah, this is simple. Of course, I know I'm doing all that. And if you were the one doing the rehab by yourself over the next 12 months, because that's how long it'll take you, also a lesson learned, it'd be fine. Yeah, you could just do it from memory, but you've got different trades coming in and different people, and you might have one person he can do the electric and he can do the plumbing. So he needs to know specifically what are all these things, because otherwise, if they don't tell them what to do, they're just going to guess, and they don't know. So it's up to you to manage that project and control all the things that need to be done. You don't need to know how to wire up a GFCI outlet, but you need to know that you need them. And you need to know that you need outlets. Do we know that? Just look at your own kitchen in your house, okay? You all have a kitchen, okay? So look at your own house, like, we got it. Okay, so determine the scope. And we've got whole workshops just on that. Watch that 8 stages of a rehab, you'll learn a lot from that. Okay, so that's done. The next thing you need to do is then estimate the cost. And here's how you're gonna estimate the cost. And this is where all the variations come in. And again, I will do whole presentations and whole workshops just on estimating the costs and what the average price is for tile and labor and all this stuff. That information is all available to you. If you buy a property from us, we will give you a detailed breakdown of how we came up with our numbers. So you can specifically see, okay, they said this much for tile. What does that mean? Well, it's this much per square foot in this room, this much per square foot in this room. We will give you a very, very, very detailed breakdown once you buy a property from us. So if you have questions about what is the pricing of all this, you can see that. I'm not going to tell you specifically what all of our pricing is, because then I want you to buy a house from us, right? If I tell you, then you won't, okay? Okay, so here's how you estimate the cost. It's very simple. Well, kind of. First thing you do, you have to decide on your level of finishes. So you have to pick out your materials. What type of materials do you want? So for a kitchen, what type of cabinets are you going to use? Is it going to be like premium level cabinets? Are you going to go to Home Depot and buy the melamine cabinets off the shelf? Are you going to use granite? Are you going to use really fancy restoration hardware light fixtures? Or are you just going to get, the off-shelf ones from Lowe's? So you have to kind of just determine what your level of finish is. And there's a lot of different combinations. For example, on this hypothetical rehab, I said I'm going to use a lower grade, like mid to low grade builder grade cabinet, but I'm going to use a nicer countertop. Because the nicer cabinets in this situation would be $4,500, and the lower grade cabinets are going to be $2,500. So then that allows me to spend $1,500 on the granite. See? So it's only complicated the first time you do it, but once you get through a couple, you'll have a really good idea of what your prices are, and you'll be able to figure things a lot quicker based on what your capabilities are and what your experiences are. All right, so you're going to decide the level of finish. That's step one. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to calculate your material costs. And these are just going to kind of be like a rough estimate. So you might say, for example, tile, like $8 a square foot, which I can't believe it's so expensive now, but it is. So labor's really going up. So tile, like $8 a square foot. You know that, okay, getting hardwoods done is about $3 a square foot. Carpets, $2 a square foot. Cabinets, X amount of dollars per lineal foot. Again, if you buy a property from us, all that information is available to you. You don't have to do any of this stuff. You just look at the sheet that you have. But you need to go out and you estimate all these things. And then you need to figure out your labor costs as well. So you need to look at, is it hourly? Is it by job? Hopefully you're paying your contractors by the job, by the scope of work, and not by the hour. If they say, hey, can I do this time and materials? You say, no, right? Because you're at work. You don't have time to manage him and pay attention to when they got there, when they didn't get there, and say, I want you to do this. I'm going to pay you this. And once you, if you watch the workshop video online, I don't think it's on the Build site, but if you go to YouTube and you Google Gary Bailey Cincinnati, or you just Google Gary Bailey Cincinnati, I come right up. It's crazy. There's a video on there of the workshop that we did on managing contractors, and it's called How to Recruit, Manage, and Pay Contractors. And it specifically talks about how to draw up very simple scopes of work. That's one page, handwritten, that says rough electric, and rough in this, and this, and this, and this, and I'll pay you this, and it should take you this long, and that's it. So those are the simple techniques that you can use to get good pricing. But again, watch that video. That'll give you a lot of really good information. That's on YouTube. It's not on the Build Realty website. All right, so you figure all the labor costs. Here's an example of just some of the costs in this kitchen. So going through that list of items, dumpster, 20-yard dumpster, $500. Demo for the kitchen, 16 hours, 20 bucks an hour, $320. Install the framing. So you're going to demo the walls of the kitchen, get all that tile off, demo the flooring, get rid of all the cabinets. It takes a long time to demo a kitchen. It really takes about 2 people, about a day or 2, to demo a full kitchen, because you got to get all that concrete off the wall. If you bought a house in College Hill or wherever else where it's got all that tile with that concrete mortar, it's got the mortar bed that's like that thick, you got to chisel all that off. It's a lot of work, it takes a lot of time, but it's worth it to do it right. So that takes a long time. And if you've ever tried to do demo yourself, you realize knocking it down is the easy part. It's hauling it out to the dumpster that's what takes so long. We're not young anymore, are we? Goodness gracious, lifting a whole garbage can full of tile and mortar and stuff up over that dumpster, and if it's a 20-yard or if it's a 30-yard, oh my, right? That's what takes so long, is doing that. So that's on there as well. And then you've got to go in with your framing. So now you've ripped everything off the wall. You've got these bare concrete walls. Well, the drywallers aren't just going to come, and you don't want to the drywallers aren't going to put up the wood, so you got to have somebody frame that up so it can accept the drywall. One thing that we talk about too, and that we teach, this is a great technique to use, get all your bids for your plumbing and for your electric after the demo is already done, after the walls are already opened up. Don't bring the plumber in with everything fully there and all the tiles up and everything. Be like, oh, change this out. They're going to say, okay, well, it's X amount of dollars, and then they're going to add some for like a fudge factor, just in case they open up the wall and there's like, dead squirrels inside and all the wood's rotted. They don't know. But if you open it up and it's already there, and they say, well, I don't have, because they don't want to do that part. They just want to do plumbing. But a lot of investors ask them to do demo and all this other stuff. That's not what you're really going to pay your plumber, a licensed plumber, to demo out tile. You'd rather just get that done, so when they come in and say, oh yeah, all I have to do is just hook up the shower body. Stephanie's first time rehabber, her and her husband actually moved here from Vancouver to rehab a house in Cincinnati, because you can buy for the cost, you could buy 15 houses in Cincinnati for what it would cost to buy one house in Vancouver. That's probably a teardown, right? Yeah. So you guys had a plumber come over. How long did it take him to change out that shower body in that shower?
2 hours.
2 hours, that's it. So all the demo was already done. They had their scope of work. They had the bid. They bid it out at a little bit lower. It came in at the right price. It was easy. Was there anything super difficult about that? Everything works. There's no leaks or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Doesn't leak yet. But no, everything's fine. Because it was just very, very simple. Because they did it in stages. So that's a perfect tip. Get all that stuff done, then get your bids. All right. So next thing then. They're installing the framing. They're installing that beam. So I said they're going to open up that wall between the kitchen and the dining room. So you got your labor and you got materials. You hang and finish the drywall, the patch drywall, install the floor tiles. So these are just the first couple things. So that's an example of how you would determine your costs and what that would be. So that's done. So you figured out your scope and you figured out the cost of everything. So after you've determined the scope and after you've determined the cost, look, we haven't even talked about budget yet, have we? We don't even talk about budgets. The prep for everything, guys, is what takes the longest time. Has anybody ever painted anything more than just a room? The second house I rehabbed, I painted the outside of it myself. It actually went pretty good. It took me 8 hours. 7 of it was taping everything off on the outside of the house. It only took me 45 minutes to spray the whole house and 15 minutes to clean out the paint sprayer, and that was it. But it took 7 hours to tape everything off. The preparation is where you make your money, where you save your money. If you do all this stuff, then you have all that information to lay out, and you'll say, man, I'm so happy that I took those couple hours, or break it up over a couple. Look, you're doing this stuff before you close. It's free time, right? You're not paying any money for this house at that point. It's the house's money. Just take a couple weekends and go out to the house, measure everything out, scope everything out. That's when you do that, during that planning stage. You'll be so glad that you did. So after you've done that, after you determine the scope, after you determine the cost, then what you want to do, you want to take each one of those little items and you want to assign them to a specific budget category. So those 26 things on that list, each one of those needs to live inside a specific category. For example, here's the categories that we use. Jamie? Can you guys help me hand these out? I'm going to run through these while you guys are handing these out. So we use a bunch of different categories. So these are the categories that we use. So if you buy a property from us, you'll see on that second page, that's the different categories. So you've got roofing, you've got electrical, windows and doors, kitchens, HVAC, paint and ceilings, carpet and flooring. Look, there's a million different ways to put together a budget. For example, some people might say, kitchen, does that have tile or is tile and flooring? Doesn't matter, as long whatever you use it in a way that just works for you. So overall, what this is that you're looking at right here is a full-blown budget. Now for our purposes, for this kitchen example that we're using, these are the different budgets that we're putting together. So we've got demo, electrical, plumbing, tile and flooring, cabinets and tops, paint and drywall, framing, and appliances. Now we're talking about budgets. So this is budget number 1. This is the master budget. Jay, what time is it?
10:00.
Cool, thank you. Number 1. That's budget 1. Unfortunately, this is as far as most people get. And some people don't even get here. The master budget's great. You absolutely have to have the master budget. But it's not going to help you go through the rehab. The master budget itself isn't going to help you stay on budget. Let's look at this for the kitchen example. All those things, those 26 steps, they all live inside certain categories. And when you add up all the pricing that I came up with for each one of those sections, this is how it comes out. You got the demo, electrical, plumbing, tile and flooring, cabinets and tops, paint, drywall, framing, and appliances. Oops. That's great, right? And that's what most of us have when we start our rehab. And I see a lot of new investors that we work with, they're like, okay, this is fantastic, but like where does all that go? Like how much is labor? How much is materials? When do I spend all this stuff? That's great. But how is it going to help me get through my rehab? It's not. It'll just kind of be a measuring stick to tell you how you did. So budget's not good or bad. It's just a measuring stick. It's like a thermometer. The second type of budget, if you can do this, this is really, really going to change your business if you can do this. It's LMI Budget. It stands for labor, materials, or installed. What it does, it takes the master budget and it breaks it down in 3 potential categories: labor, materials, or installed. Is anybody confused by the installed thing? An example of installed would be HVAC. Right? You're not going to go to the HVAC supply house and buy an AC condenser and throw it in the back of your truck and have it ready there for the person. You're probably also not going to go and buy shingles. So like roofers, they're going to provide, if they're already providing the materials, it's the whole price, then it's installed. Granite's like this a lot. You're just saying this is much, that's what it is per square foot, and that's installed, that's it. So kitchens, if you guys are using Unity kitchens and baths, they do an all installed package now where it's the cabinets, the granite, and they'll install the whole thing. So it's one-stop shop. So that would be installed. So let's just look at these different ones, because look at this. As a rehabber, right? You're looking at that, okay, that looks good. You're like, okay, but there's still something in the back of your head like, I don't know, like I'm still kind of worried about how this whole thing's going to go. But look at this. Oh, sorry, getting ahead of myself. Look at that. Oh, so much better, right? Now you can clearly see labor, materials are installed. So now you know what you're working with. Because last time I checked, does it cost more money for an electrician to hang a restoration ceiling fan, a Restoration Harbor ceiling fan, or a Harbor Breeze ceiling fan? The installation's exactly the same, right? But if you don't know the difference between what you're spending on your labor versus what you're spending on your materials, your whole budget, you say, well, my electrical budget's $750. But if you know the difference, then you can negotiate with the contractors, and that's where you can save some money so that you're in alignment. See these? This is great. The workshop tonight's being videotaped. We'll have it up on the website, so don't worry. Don't worry. You can see all this. All right. This allows you to do the next budget, which is the bidding budget. Example that I gave earlier, that I asked everybody the question. Do contractors usually go in over budget or under budget? Do they always go over budget or only most of the time? Always. Now, there's a lot of smart people out there who are like project managers, and they've thought about this. You imagine like huge projects, right? They've already thought about this, and they have a solution. And it's very, very simple. And I'm going to share it with you. Your budget should have a contingency built into it. So you need to plan. If you don't separate labor and materials, you can't do this. You've got to separate labor, because the materials are what they are, right? I mean, you can save a little bit of money here or there by going with lower grade materials, but you need to know what that is. So if you end up having to pay a little more on labor, you can adjust. The only thing you can do to get something cheaper is to go with a lower grade product, right? So you have to do that, and then I'll allow you to do this. Bid everything out at 80% of what your true budget is. So you've got your budget, and then you've got what you tell them your budget is. Because they're going to go over. So when they go over, you go, oh man, I know. Well, hey, can you split the difference with me? Right? Then you're still under your budget. And look, this is from the earned value management project management process. This is a very well-established thing. This isn't something that I just came up with out of the top of my head. Like, I've researched tons of project management styles and processes. Earned value management is the best one, hands down, that real estate investors can use. It's very complicated, so we try to boil it down to something that can just be applied to real estate investors. So if you really want to dig into it and you really want to geek out on that stuff, earned value management, look it up. There's all kinds of free stuff online. If you use Microsoft Project, there's plugins. I mean, it's a whole thing. But this is one of the premises they talk about, is having a management reserve for your project. So if you go to the contractors and you say, hey, for demo, I want you to do these things, and I need you to do it for $250. Okay, I'll do it for $250. It should take you about a day. It might take you half a day. It might take you a whole day. So if it takes you a whole day, then you made $250 in a day. If it takes you half a day, then you made $250 in half a day. So we've tested this out a lot with different real estate investors, particularly newer investors. Steph, I hate to point you out again, but I gave you and Graham some specific numbers here. We went over this stuff. And I said, hey, just bid it out at 80% and see what happens. Have you had anybody push back on any of your contractors yet?
No, not yet.
Are any of these contractors that you had relationships with before? Like, did you know them before you'd done other jobs with them? Was there anybody that I even sent you that even had worked with Build before? You literally just randomly got contractors off of Craigslist. You're crazy. But it worked, right?
So far.
So they got contractors off of Craigslist that they've never met. And they got, multiple bids and met with different contractors. They didn't have any previous relationships with them. And they came right in and they offered them at this price. Look, it's free to ask. You guys do it to us all the time. I know you're selling it for this, but can you throw in all the closing costs? It's free to ask, right? So if you go in a little bit lower, then that way if something goes over, you've got a little bit of a contingency. But if you don't know what your labor costs are going to be and you don't know what your budget is, then you don't know how you can do this. Because you will have some situations where, you miss something. It's going to be a little bit more, particularly on a whole house. I mean, this is just a kitchen. Imagine a whole house. So if you're planning on 80%, then if it goes over, you still could be potentially at the 100%. And then then you could say, hey, I'm going to adjust somewhere else. Which brings me to the next and the final budget, which is chronological budget. This one I'm very, very excited about. If I was ever to start like a software company and develop like a rehab tracking app or something like that. Okay, this is the last handout, okay? If I was ever going to develop like a rehab management program that's specifically for real estate investors, this is the back end of what we would use. This would be like the backbone of the whole thing. Right now it exists in Excel. You guys will all get a link to the section of the website. So all these workshops are all on our website. You just can't see them. But when you come to the workshop, you'll get a link that emails you a secret link to the website where you can see a page that has the video from the workshop and all the deliverables, the downloads and all that stuff. Oh, I need one. Oh, no. Yeah, thanks. All right. I could really, really, really dig into this a lot, but your eyes will glaze over after about 3 minutes. So I'm going to hit the highlights of this. What it is, and again, you don't have to use this particular one. You can do the same thing on your own with pencil and paper. I'm just telling you the right way to organize it. What a chronological budget does, it says when you're going to spend the money. So you've already done, look, most of the chronological stuff is done right here by separating out the labor and the materials. If you can just do that, you've really set yourself up for success. The chronological budget then marries the 8 stages with the budgets, and it puts it together. So for example, let's just say 1 week. All right, here it is. This is the first phase. It lines right up with this, okay? Everything has a budget. So these are all the budget items. Demo, framing and carpentry, electrical, plumbing, cabinets and tops, painting and drywall. It's all in order, right? Every single one of these individual items you already have in your hand. It's this. So we took these and put them in order of this, which made this. It's like a rehab baby, right? I always say one weird thing every time. So check this out. So you got the demo. So this is phase 1. And when you're starting out, you really only need to worry about kind of the beginning, like the first couple weeks. How's it going to go? Okay, we're going to do the demo. 20-yard dumpster, materials, $500. Kitchen demo. All you're doing is filling in your sheet onto here, and then it gives you this number. Now, before everyone freaks the heck out and says, $12,000 for a kitchen remodel, look, if you separate everything out, I rounded a bunch of stuff up to keep big numbers. So like electrician, for example, you're not going to pay an electrician $250 to rough in 4 outlets in your kitchen, right? But it'll be part of the overall rehab that you're doing. So this is not an actual budget. I've scaled things up. So please don't spend $12,000 rehabbing a kitchen on a $150,000 house. So you can see the advantages. You could use, the electrician is going to do the job in the whole house. This is just a kitchen if you were to pull it out. But now maybe you see why if you hire like whatever, some home remodeling company, and it's $25,000 to have your kitchen redone, well, here's their numbers. They're going to take this and they're going to double it, and there's your kitchen remodel. That's why kitchen remodels cost $25,000, $30,000. But as rehabbers, you can't do that. You can't pay Yellow Pages prices. So this is the little man working the levers behind the great and powerful laws, right? This is what you're seeing. So check this out. Demo, 20-yard dumpster, materials, $500. Kitchen demo. See the detailed demo scope, which is the individual sections. Labor is this. Dispose of the appliances, nothing. So you've got your labor, you've got your materials, labor, materials, and installed. So it tells you at the end of phase 1, which is 2 weeks long, it's $4,700. $1,300 of that is labor. That's not right. So $4,700 total between all these categories right here. So you've got framing carpentry is $470, $300 for electrical, $300 for plumbing, and you know which one's labor and which one's materials. See how that works? Then you've got your second phase right here. So then you've got the flooring going in. Notice it's telling you some things you need to do. This first week, I need to measure and order the cabinets that week. And it's going to cost me $2,500 because I'm going to have to pay for the cabinets when I order them. You're going to hang and finish the drywall. Then you're going to go in the flooring. So that tells you what week is it. Week 3, the flooring will be going in. Then you've got painting and drywall. Then, oh, they called the cabinets are ready to go in. Great. So then you install the cabinets. At the same time, then right after that, you measure for the granite. So you're going to have to pay for that. Then you're installing the baseboards, and all the casing and everything, the trim, all that. Then you're going to order your appliances. So you know, oh, goodness gracious. So you're saying what week it's being done and how much it's costing you. That way, if in week 1 something goes wrong, you can adjust your numbers and you can refer back to your labor, materials, and installed budget, and you can adjust everything accordingly. Because what will end up happening is 2 things that works both ways. You'll get a great deal on something and you'll save like $1,000 on something crazy. I don't know what it is, on your rehab. And you're like, oh, well, yeah. Well, you'll spend that $1,000 savings over and over again. Oh, well, yeah. No, I'll just take it out of that $1,000 that I saved. I'll just take it out of that $1,000 I saved. You'll do that like 10 times. And you know, math, it doesn't really work like that. So, and then it happens on the other side too. You go over and you don't make an adjustment. You're like, well, the adjustment in your head is like, well, I'll just ask more for the house. The value is what it is, unless you're really going crazy and you're in an area where you can really create a lot of value. Don't let that be your default. The market doesn't care that you went over on your rehab, because all the other houses out there are all rehabbed as well, your competition, and they've got all priced accordingly. And if it's just as good as your product and it's in the same area and it's a very similar house, which there's a lot of houses that are similar in this area, they're going to buy the other house first. It's not that your house isn't going to sell, it's just it's not going to sell first. So you guys will all receive a link with information on how to download the spreadsheet. It's pretty cool. I really thank you guys for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
If you have questions, please join us over at Mio's afterwards. And if you are interested in learning about how the financing works, there's going to be a very short presentation. The quick down and dirty about the financing is this. We have financing available. Credit does not matter. It includes the purchase price and it includes the renovation costs for the house as well. So if financing is holding you back from getting into real estate, I highly recommend that you sit here and listen to what April's got to say. We'll see you guys over at Mio's afterwards. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you. That's great.